And to do something about the drug problem, that's to get the border under control, which you all refuse to do. And I think part of the reason is what people like Tlaib and Representative Bush have said, and imply that that's some kind of racist act to secure the border. That's not a racist act.
All right, Congressman James Comer speaking there right here on Newsmax. Welcome back to the show. I'm Rob Finnerty. The numbers for you right now. Just over 170,000 migrants tried to cross our southern border illegally in May. That's the first time since 2000 that we've seen numbers that high. Bill Clinton was president the last time we had numbers that high. The vice president has yet to visit the border, despite calls from elected officials on both sides of the aisle to address the problem. Joining us now for more on this is Kentucky Congressman James Comer, back with us here on Wake Up. Congressman, good morning. Nice to see you again.
Great to be back on your show.
Congressman, 77 days later, the vice president was asked by NBC News anchor Lester Holt about visiting the southern border. She seemed very surprised by that question. What are your thoughts on where she is with visiting the southern border?
Well, it's just shocking that she hasn't paid one visit to the southern border. Joe Biden put her in charge of the southern border early on, and she hasn't set foot on the border. She's asked about it repeatedly by a very friendly media, but she has no answer. She just laughs it off. Her arrogance is shocking. You know, the House Oversight Committee, the Republicans on the committee, we just went to the border a few weeks ago, and I can tell you, it's a battle down there. It's a crisis, and the morale is low among our Border Patrol employees because, you know, they need more reinforcement. And when morale's low, the leader's supposed to go down there and charge the troops. But she goes to other countries. She laughs it off when asked about it, and it's a problem that's only going to get worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, you make a good point. I think that actions speak louder than words, and I think it's sort of a slap in the face to a lot of people in America that she chooses to visit two foreign countries to address this crisis before actually going to the border and seeing it with her own eyes. The other sort of story that is involved in the border crisis is drugs, the amount of drugs that are pouring into the U.S. over our southern border every single day. How bad is this problem?
It's horrible. What we learned from not just Border Patrol agents, but also local law enforcement in New Mexico and Texas was that every day they catch people illegally crossing the border carrying drugs. And I recently met with drug task force agents in South Central Kentucky in my district, and they showed me all sorts of drugs, fentanyl, crystal meth, heroin. Everything they showed me, they said came from Mexico. They can trace it from Mexico. So when people say that this border crisis only affects border states, they're badly misinformed. These drugs that are crossing through the Mexican border every day into the United States are ending up on the streets in all 50 states. And the fact that the Democrats want to hold committee hearings on every type of issue under their rainbow except the crisis at the border speaks volumes.
And I just don't think many people are aware of how quickly drugs can go from the border to any of the states in the lower 48. It can happen in less than a day. We've talked about that before. Yesterday at an oversight committee hearing, this very same topic came up. Take a listen.
The most recent statistics from Customs and Border Patrol Protection show that in the 3 months of February, March, and April of this year, CBP seized 176,000 pounds of illicit drugs coming into our country, which is 20% higher than the same 3-month period in 2020. During this fiscal year alone, CBP has seized more fentanyl than they did in the entirety of 2020.
Congressman, I think on a normal day, that would be front page news. For some reason, right now, it's not.
It's not, and that witness was Jim Carroll, the former director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy. He was the Republican witness that we were allowed to have. So they had 4 witnesses, 3 Democrat witnesses, 1 Republican witness. Our witness actually talked about the crisis at the border. He actually talked about, with hard data, what's happening at the border from a drug standpoint, and not a single Democrat bothered to ask him a question. They just attacked Republicans for being racist and every other accusation under the sun. The Democrats don't want to talk about this, but let's be real. This problem's not going away. It's only going to get worse. Kamala Harris can travel to every Central American and South American country on the map and offer them money and bribes to keep their people at home, and it's not going to work. As long as that border is unsecure, we're going to continue to have a constant uptick in the flow of illegals crossing that border. And with that, we're going to have more and more drugs that are going to end up on the streets in rural Kentucky. If they end up in rural Kentucky, right where there's no interstate or really no major infrastructure, they're going to end up in every major city in America, and it's a crisis situation. I hope the people of America are watching. I hope they demand their Democrats take action on this.
Well, they do, and to your point, they're already in rural Kentucky. They're in small towns. These drugs are showing up in towns that don't normally have serious issues with drugs, and that's how bad the problem is, and it's been going on for months and months, largely unchecked by the administration. I want to talk about the coronavirus. The lab leak theory as for the origins of this virus remains a big story. The Hudson Institute came out with conclusions that it is all more than likely plausible that it did come from a lab, and they recommended sanctions be placed on China, ceasing funding for dangerous research, enforcing treaty compliance, civil litigation. They want to curb bioweapon research. Does any of this go far enough? Is this a good start, though? But do you think they go far enough with these recommendations for sanctions on China?
I think it's a good start. One thing that I want to focus on the House Oversight Committee is which American pharmaceutical companies are actually doing business in China, especially with the Wuhan lab. We need to find out what companies are over there, why they're over there. If there's a reason because of some law, because of some liability law on the books in the United States, we need to clear that. We need to fix that because we don't need American pharmaceutical companies doing business over there. But we do need to put sanctions on China, and this is going to disrupt trade even further. But this is a serious situation. China has cost the American taxpayer trillions and trillions of dollars. They've cost every American a year of their life. They've disrupted the economy, and they have to be held accountable, and I think sanctions are the first step, unfortunately.
All right, 90 days, Joe Biden's 90-day investigation. That's going to go by very quickly. What happens after 90 days?
Well, then we'll see if he actually came up with the information that's consistent with the intelligence that Republicans have, and if so, we'll take that information and hold China accountable. I believe that it's going to show that not only did the virus originate in the lab, that China and the World Health Organization knew about it, and they remained silent. The World Health Organization tried to cover it up, and I believe that we need to determine which American companies knew any possible information about the origination of this, and we need to immediately fix the problem. This needs to take precedence along with the border security, and we need to fix the problem, and we need to hold China accountable.
Well, Congressman, I can't tell if you're in the U.S., if you're in the Capitol or if you're at home right now, but keep Newsmax on. We've got somebody from the World Health Organization joining us in just a few minutes, and we've got some very, very tough questions to ask.
I'm in Kentucky, and I always watch Newsmax.
I'm glad to hear it, Congressman Comer. Nice to see you again. Thanks for coming on again.
Thanks for having me on.